Hi everyone, welcome to this video where we will learn about AWS Transfer Family. So before we begin with today's video, let me give a quick introduction about myself. My name is Aishwarya Sood and I am working as a lead coach in the AWS domain. I am 3x AWS certified and Amazon authorized instructor and AWS Academy accredited educator. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. The profile name has been given here and you can also scan the QR code to directly view my profile. So in today's video, we will discuss about what are file transfers, what's the need of it, what is AWS Transfer Family, what are the benefits that it offers to us, how does it work, and how we can get started with the Transfer Family by creating our first server for the file transfers, what are different use cases for it, and what about the pricing of the Transfer Family. So let's first understand what's the need of managed file transfer workflows. Do you have the use cases where do you need to move the data or files from external sources or subscriptions into a data lake or a storage system, or maybe you have a need to securely share the files with external customers or clients on a frequent basis? Or you might have a requirement for regularly scheduled file transfers where, for example, daily transaction records may need to be sent from distributed locations to the headquarters, or the log files may need to be backed up once per day. Basically, you have the use cases where the file transfers are needed, and for this to be accomplished efficiently, you need a good file transfer solution. You can do it in an unmanaged way where you have to be responsible for a lot of time consuming tasks, because without a managed file transfer workflow, you have to host and manage your own file transfer service, which requires you to invest in operating and managing the infrastructure, patching the servers, monitoring for uptime and availability, and building one-off mechanisms to provision users and audit their activity. But AWS Transfer Family is the managed solution here, and let's get started with it. AWS Transfer Family supports multiple protocols for many business-to-business file transfers, so data can easily and securely be exchanged across the stakeholders, third-party vendors, business partners, or even the customers. So it offers a fully managed support for the transfer of files over SFTP protocol, FTPS, and FTP directly into and out of Amazon S3 and Amazon EFS. So basically, wherever you have the files from external sources in your local system itself, what you have to do is just connect to a server with the Transfer Family, and directly your files from your local system through the protocols SFTP, FTPS, or FTP, it will be sent into Amazon S3 or EFS. You can also easily migrate, automate, and monitor the file transfer protocols file transfer workflows by maintaining existing client-side configurations for the authentication, access, and firewalls. So nothing changes for your customers, partners, and internal teams, or even their applications. And as I told on the previous slide also, without having a managed solution like Transfer Family, you have to host and manage your own file transfer service, which requires you to invest in a lot of tasks like operating and managing the infrastructure, patching the servers, monitoring for uptime and availability, and so on. But AWS Transfer Family solves these challenges by providing fully managed support for SFTP, FTPS, and FTP, where it preserves your existing transfer workflows for your end users, which eventually reduces the operational burden and gives you more time to focus on more important tasks, so that your file transfer processes becomes easy and smooth. So let's understand a few of the many benefits that AWS Transfer Family can provide us. It is a fully managed service that scales in real time to meet your needs. So that means we don't have to even take care of the scalability in this, and you don't need to modify your applications or run any file transfer protocol infrastructure. And with your data in durable Amazon S3 storage, you can use native AWS services for processing, analytics, reporting, auditing, and archival functions. Once the data is in S3, you can use all the services for doing all those processes. And with Amazon EFS as your data store, You get a fully managed elastic file system for use with AWS cloud services and on-premises resources, because Amazon EFS is built to scale on demand to petabytes without disrupting any applications, growing and shrinking automatically as you add and remove the files. So this helps eliminate the need to provision and manage the capacity to accommodate the growth. And a fully managed serverless file transfer workflow service, this is the AWS Transfer Family. It makes it very easy to set up, run, automate and monitor the processing of files uploaded using the transfer family. Also, regarding the cost, there are no upfront cost and you pay only for the use of the service. So we will discuss a little bit more about the pricing that is associated with the transfer family in a later portion of this session. So now I have been telling about some protocols over which the file transfers can be done, but what are these protocols exactly? Let's have a quick overview of these protocols. So first is SFTP, which stands for Secure Shell File Transfer Protocol, which is a network protocol which is used for secure transfer of data over the internet. This protocol supports the full security and authentication functionality of SSH and is widely used to exchange the data between business partners in a variety of industries, including which can be financial services, healthcare, media and entertainment, retail, advertising and many more industries. But for your information, the ones who do not know what is SSH, let me tell you, it is also known as Secure Shell or the Secure Socket Shell, which is a network protocol that gives users, particularly the system administrators, a secure way to access a computer over an unsecured network. For example, like how we access an Amazon EC2 instance through SSH. Then comes a FTP, which stands for File Transfer Protocol, which is a network protocol that is used for the transfer of data. FTP will use a separate channel for control and data transfers, and the control channel is open until terminated or inactivity timeout. The data channel is active for the duration of the transfer itself, and FTP uses the clear text and doesn't support encryption of the traffic. Apart from this, we have FTPS, which stands for File Transfer Protocol over SSL and is an extension itself of the FTP. It uses transport layer security, to which commonly it is known as TLS also, and the secure sockets layer, that is SSL, cryptographic protocols to encrypt the traffic. And FTPS allows the encryption of both the control and the data channel connections, either concurrently or independently. So the basic differences between FTPS and SFTP is that they use different clients and technologies to offer a secure tunnel for transmission of commands and the data. SFTP is a newer protocol and uses a single channel for commands and data, requiring fewer port openings than the FTPS. So that's about the protocols, but how do we get started with AWS Transfer Family? Let's have a look at some of the high-level steps that are involved in the entire setup. So first of all, we have to create an S3 bucket or Amazon EFS file system, because this is where the data will be stored, that will be transferred from other sources. Then we create a IAM role that contains two IAM policies. Okay, one will be including the permissions to enable this AWS Transfer Family to access the S3 bucket or Amazon EFS, whatever we create. And this IAM policy will determine what level of access you provide your transfer family to the users. And another policy will be to establish a trust relationship with the AWS Transfer Family. Then we create a Transfer Family server and then specify the identity provider type that is used by the service to authenticate your users. Now, what are all the identity providers that it supports? It supports three identity provider options. One is service managed, where we can store user identities within the service. One is Microsoft Active Directory, and then the custom identity providers, which enable you to integrate an identity provider of your choice. Service managed authentication is supported for the server endpoints that are enabled for SFTP only. And if you are working with a server with the service managed identity provider as opposed to a custom identity provider, you have to add one or more users while creating it. Okay, that all of that I will be showing in the demo, so that time we will understand it a little better. Okay, and then the last will be to open a file transfer protocol client and then configure the connection to use the endpoint hostname for the server that we want to use, that we have just created in the transfer family. And we can get this hostname from the transfer family console itself. So I will show you where to get this. And we can have the custom hostnames also. Okay. Host name of the server is basically the host name that the users will enter in the client, this FTP client, where they connect to the server. And we can use a custom domain name that we have registered for our server hostname when we work with the transfer family. For example, we might use a custom hostname like myserver.mysubdomain.domain.com. Okay, this format can be there for your custom domain names. And to redirect the traffic from the registered custom domain name to the server endpoint that we have created in the transfer family, we can use Amazon Route 53 or any other DNS provider as well. Route 53, as you know, it is the DNS service of AWS. So this can be solving this purpose, where we have to redirect our custom hostname to the server hostname that we have got from this. So this is how the working can be visualized. First, we have to configure the server endpoint. We can also configure the workflows if we want some way of automation, and the domain. All the things, once it is configured, the data from all of the sources, whatever we need to transfer, will start getting transferred over the SFTP, FTPS or FTP, whatever server we have created. And if there is any file processing workflows, it will go through that as well. The workflow will be triggered. And once the data is transferred, it will reach to S3 or EFS based on whatever we have specified. And once the data reaches into these services, from there we can use the data for multiple purposes, maybe for the content distribution, for the archival purposes, for analytics, processing or machine learning. So different use cases can be there for how we want to use the data that we have got in the S3 or EFS. But what are managed workflows that I was telling about? So basically, if you need to process the files that you exchange with your business partners using the transfer family, you will need to set up an infrastructure to run the custom code, continuously monitor for runtime errors and anomalies, and make sure that all the changes and transformation to the data are audited and logged. Additionally, you will need to account for the error scenarios, both the technical and business, while ensuring the fail-safe modes are properly triggered. And if you have requirements for traceability, you need to track the lineage of the data as it passes along different components of your system. And maintaining separate components for a file processing workflow takes time away from focusing on differentiating work you could be doing for your business, which is more important, the data. Okay, you will be focusing all the time on setting up the infrastructures and other tasks which can be automated using some services. So you have to look for the ways how you can eliminate those tasks, how you can offload those tasks to a managed service, so that you can focus more on the more important tasks that will expand your business, that will help in improving your business. So these managed workflows remove the complexities of managing multiple tasks and provide a standardized file processing solution that can be replicated across your organization, with built-in exception handling and file traceability for each step to help you meet your business and legal requirements. So it basically automates the file transfer process. You don't have to make much changes. It follows the no code or low code solutions. And then, as I told you, the complexities are removed for managing those multiple tasks which can be automated. So you get more time and energy to spend on the more important tasks. And only a few of them, because most of the tasks that are administrative tasks will be taken care by the managed workflow itself. Simply we can pre-process or post-process the files using this managed workflows, because they allow us to simply and easily pre-process the data before it is consumed by our downstream applications, by orchestrating the file processing tasks such as moving the files to user-specific folders, encrypting the files in transit, malware scanning, and the tagging. Also, the standardization can be ensured by maintaining the same workflow across the servers. Okay, so that all the steps will be followed in a similar way, so that the standardization is made. It is maintained, and there are no deviation from the tasks. So you can deploy the workflows using the infrastructure as a code mechanism, which enable you to quickly replicate and standardize a common post-upload file processing tasks which span multiple business units in your organizations. And managed workflows are only triggered on fully uploaded files, ensuring that the data quality is also maintained. So there is built-in exception handling also, which allow you to quickly react to file processing outcomes, helping you maintain your business and the technical service level agreements while offering you control on how to handle the failures. And also, each workflow step produces the detailed logs which can be audited to trace the data lineage, that how the entire workflow has been followed, what steps have been done, how the data has been transferred. So now what we will do, we will get started with the transfer family on the console, and we will see how we can set up it on the AWS console. So let's go to the AWS console now. So as you all know, as a prerequisite, if you remember, I told that we have to create either S3 bucket or a file system in EFS where the data will be stored after getting transferred. So for this demo, I'll go ahead with creating a bucket in the S3. For this particular demo, I have already created a bucket, okay, just to show you. The bucket that I created is this bucket, transfer 28 April, okay, and in this bucket I just created a folder which is empty as of now, folder 1. That's it. So I will tell you why I created this folder, and you just have to create a bucket with any name, okay, and create a folder. That's it. That was a prerequisite. Apart from this, other prerequisite was to create 2 IAM policies, and which will give the transfer family access to this S3 bucket, okay. But anyway, we will do it 1 second. Yeah, so let's create the IAM policy now. Before that, let me open the S3 because we will be needing the bucket name also to mention in the policy. So for that, let's go to the policies and let's click on create policy. Now here the service that we will choose is S3 because we want to give the access for S3, okay. So let's find the S3. Yeah, let's select S3, and the actions, we can say all actions. I'll modify the policy little later on, okay. For now, let's keep it as all S3 actions. And then resources, we have to give the access on a specific bucket only, right? So we have to keep in mind the principle of least privilege as well. So we will add a specific bucket ARN to restrict the access. Let me copy the bucket ARN from here and let me give it here. So it has taken the bucket name, okay, that is transfer 28 April, and I will say add. Now only for this specific bucket the actions will be allowed, but we want some more limitations to be there. So you can see the policy looks something like this. So these are some of the bucket level operations which will not be needed by the user to whom which we are gonna assign this policy. Then so that's why we can just remove this thing, okay, because this portion of policy will not be needed. But here we can make a small change. So here we will say, because we want to give this bucket the access, and along with this we want the objects of all this bucket, okay. So let me mention that. Now we are good to go for the further actions. The policy is done. Let me create it. And let's go ahead. Tags you can add optionally, but right now I'll not be adding it. Let me just review what we have created, okay. So yes, that's correct, okay. And let's name this policy as transfer permission, okay. So let me just name it as like this only, and then I will create this policy. So you can see the policy has been created. Now we have to create a role to whom we will be attaching this policy, and that role will be assumed by the user who we will be creating in the transfer family when we will create a server. So let's create a role here. So this will be taken by the AWS service, that is Transfer Family. So I will choose this option itself. So I will go for the service. So let's search for the Transfer Family from here. Here it is, transfer. Okay, then let's choose this option. It will allow the transfer, that is the Transfer Family, to call the AWS services on our behalf, which establishes a trust relationship. So what policy we want to assign? If you remember just now, the policy that we have created, it is transfer permission. Okay, let me search by its name. So this is the policy that I just created. I'll go ahead and choose this and then next. So let's give this role a name. So we can name it as transfer demo role. Okay, something like this you can give, and then see this is establishing the trust relationship that I was talking about while explaining on the slides. So here we go, create a role. So now the role has been created, the prerequisites are done. We have created the S3 bucket also. We have the appropriate role with the appropriate policy also. Now we will go to the Transfer Family and begin creating the server. So let's go to the Transfer Family, and the first step will be to create the server. So you can see this, I am right now into the AWS Transfer Family console. Let me just click on create server. So here we can choose the protocols, okay, that we want to create a SFTP server, we want to create FTPS, or we want to create FTP. The differences between all of them I have told you. So for this demo, we will go ahead with creating the SFTP server only. Then click on next, then identity provider. So I told you about all these three identity providers. Okay, for this demo we will be going ahead with the service managed identity provider itself, which means the user credentials, the user authentication will be stored on this particular server itself. So we will create a user later on after creating this server. Then we can choose an endpoint. Should it be a publicly accessible endpoint or should it be a VPC hosted? So if we choose a publicly accessible endpoint, it means that the people from outside the VPC, the people from all over the internet needs to transfer file through this server. Okay, so here we will be going ahead with this one only. But otherwise, if we choose a VPC hosted, then it means that it is for the applications or any users who is within the VPC only, they need to interact with the Transfer Family. So in this case, we will be able to use the security groups as well for the firewall. But right now, I'll not be going ahead with the VPC hosted. I'll go ahead with the publicly accessible endpoint itself. Okay, so custom host name, we don't have anything. So we will say keep it as none only. And then we will click on next. Then where are we sending the data? We have created an S3 bucket, right? This one for the Transfer Family. So we will select S3. If you would have created the EFS file system, you could have selected the second option, Amazon EFS. Click on next. So here it asks you to select a role for the logging. Okay, so that the logging, the events that are happening, they can be pushed to the CloudWatch logs. So you can opt, if you have an existing role, you can just opt for that only. Otherwise, you can create a new role, which it will create automatically. Okay, because it needs the access to the CloudWatch logs to log the server activity, whatever is happening on this current server that we will be creating. Okay, security policy, you can select this default one only, that is Transfer Security Policy 2020-06. Okay, so this private key you can give optionally, but right now I will not be using this key. Okay, so we can skip this step as of now. Tags you can assign optionally, that is up to you. Let me give the tag as name and I will say demo server. So next, managed workflows. Do you want to create a workflow? Do you already have a workflow? If so, you can specify it at this point. So basically workflows are if you want to automate some steps, okay, for pre-processing of the files, for post-processing of the files, like I just told you on the slides. So if you have such requirements, you can go ahead, create a new workflow, or you can use an existing workflow. Right now I'll not be including the workflows in this demo. Okay, we can see a bigger demo later on where we have the workflows. Right now, for the sake of simplicity, I'll be just working with the server. Okay, so in workflow, what you can do, let me just show you how to create it. We will not create it actually, but just to show you some steps, we include some steps that this should happen, that should happen. Okay, you should first give the description that you add, then you add a step. Okay, that what should be the first step. Okay, copy file, or tagging the file, or deleting the file, or custom file processing step. Okay, you can specify a lambda function which will do some custom processing on the file. Okay, then you configure the parameters for this step. Okay, and then you just finally review and then create this. Then you can add more steps for your workflow. Okay, so step by step your workflow will be continuing, it will be running on, so that the process can be automated. You can even add the exception handlers optionally in the workflow. Okay, you just then give the tags optionally and then create the workflow. So this workflow can be created in this way, and once done you can specify it on the workflow drop down. Okay, once you are done with that, and for that whatever appropriate rule will be needed, you have to give it here. Okay, so let's click on next and review whatever choices we have made, and we will go ahead and create a server. So this creation of the server will take a few minutes. Okay, just 2 to 5 minutes or somewhat. You can see the state is in starting state. We will have to wait until it becomes available or active state. And right now there are no users also into the server. Let me open and show you. Okay, the protocols we have chosen is SFTP, identity provider. We have chosen the service managed itself, and users, right now there are no users. We will have to create it. Okay, so all the details can be checked out from here. So once it is into active state, we will create a user in the server. So let's wait for this to come to the active state, then we will resume it. So now our server is online. Now we can go ahead and create a user in this. Okay, so we have to give a username. Let me say demo user, or okay, this is fine, demo user is fine. Then role, we have to select the one that we created in the IAM just few minutes back. So what did we name this role? Transfer demo role. Okay, and policy, we can keep it as none. So if we want additional permissions for this particular user, okay, maybe in the role we have given some permissions, and apart from that we want to give some other permissions, or we want to limit some access, we want something, then we can create a separate policy for this particular user. But if we don't want that, we can let it be none only. Then home directory, we have to select that on which particular bucket this user will be having the permissions. So my bucket name is transfer 28 April, and in this home directory which folder it should be able to access. So you can see by default it has taken the username itself, demo. Okay, so but I have created, you can see the folder one in this. If you remember, I have created the folder one. So this folder I created for this purpose, that I want that the user that I am creating right now, he should be able to access till this only. He should not have the permissions for any other bucket level access. He should be having the access to this specific folder only. And for that I have to click on restricted, so that the access is restricted till this. Otherwise, if you just keep it unchecked, then the access will be a little broader. Then SSH public key we have to specify here. Now where do we get the SSH public key? We can generate it online also, or we can use this puttygen. I have this already. So I'll just use the puttygen to generate the public key. 1 second. So here I have it. Here you just have to click on generate, and it will generate a public key for you that you can use. You just have to copy the content and paste it here, and for that same key itself you have to generate, you have to save the private key. So let's wait for this process to be finished. You can see a key has been generated. This is a public key for pasting into some box that is here right now. Okay, let me just copy this all. Then we will give it here. So this I have to paste here in the SSH public key column, and then I can save the private key, because this private key we will be needing later when we log into this server. Okay, so I have to save this private key. Click on yes and give it a name, like let's say sample key, okay, .ppk it will be saving, and save it. Then you can close it. Okay, then you can add tags if you need, otherwise you can just click on add. Next step will be to connect to this server. Okay, now everything is done. Our server has been created. We have added a user also into this, which will be used to access the S3 bucket that we have created. Now we have to use a FTP client in order to connect to this server and transfer the files. So for that I have this this one, CyberDuck. This is a good one and easy to use. You can just go ahead and use this for this transfer. Let me show you how do we work with it. So here it is. This is how it will look like. What we will have to do is open connection. There we have to click, and here we have to give the server endpoint. Now where do we get that server endpoint? Just click on this, and in this we will be getting that endpoint, this one. Okay, so we just have to copy this and paste it in this section, server, and then username. What username did we give? Demo. Okay, password we didn't create, we can just leave it. And the server protocol we are working on SFTP. Now we have to give a private key, so the one that we saved. Okay, so let me choose. The key was this sample key .ppk. Okay, then I will click on connect. So here you can just say allow. Okay, and let it work, because it is loading, it is performing the authentication, and soon within few seconds we will be able to work on it. So you can see it is now working. Okay, it is showing that no directory, like it is into the root directory. Now what I can try doing is I will click on action. I will say I want to create a new folder. Let's say new folder is what I will give the name. Okay, and in this it will be visible. Just a second. Yeah, it has come up here. Now in this, let me create a new file. Okay, sample 1. Okay, or let me create it. So it will be residing in this folder. You can see the file has been created. Now let me go to S3 and confirm something. I will just refresh and we'll see what has happened in Amazon S3. So let me click on this folder 1. Ideally our content should be now in the folder 1. Okay, yes. You see this new folder I just created in this. Okay, so this has been created in S3. This sample 1 file I created in this folder. So this is all also existing here. Okay, so this is how I'm working. Now if I create a folder here, okay, let me see, this is just a demo folder. Okay, so I will give it a name like this. That will be visible there in my local files. Okay, so if I just refresh here, I'll be able to see the content. You can see demo folder has appeared here. So this is how the files are getting transferred from here to the S3. You see that, right? Like how we used to transfer how we used to upload the files normally over the internet, like going to S3 and uploading the files and folders. But here we are doing something different, right? Here I am in my local system only. I am just working here. I'm creating the files and folders, and they are getting there in Amazon S3. And you can see the user that I created, he is able to just work on the folder 1. It is not getting created outside folder 1. Everything is inside the folder 1 itself. So this is how it works. Okay, this was just a basic demo for Transfer Family. You can use it for multiple use cases of yours. Okay, it can be explored more. Okay, there can be many use cases for this, but this was just to show you the functionality and how to set up the Transfer Family and get started with it. Okay, I hope you have understood the demo. Now we will go back to the slides and continue our session. So few of the use cases of transfer family may include like modernizing the secure file transfers with the financial and healthcare institutions for regulated data like PCI, PII or HIPAA, and then enabling insights by connecting common business application and IoT devices to a data lake for analysis and the data processing, or increasing the collaboration and connectivity across supply chain trading partners to drive the real-time insights across business applications like ERP, TMI or other systems, and expanding your subscriber reach with multiple connectivity options. Apply built-in fine-grained access controls to protect your revenue as well. And regarding the billing and pricing, what does it basically based on for the pricing? Let's discuss a few points about it. Billing is on an hourly basis for each of the protocols that we have enabled. Like let's say we enabled SFTP in our demo, so we will be charged based on that. Stopping the server does not affect the billing. Okay, and billing is also based on a few more things: the amount of data that was uploaded from, like I uploaded something from my external source, that was my local system, and the amount of data that was downloaded, and billing details for US East location. For just to give you an idea, time, it is $0.30 per hour, and uploads and downloads, it is 0.04 per GB transferred. Okay, that's a minimal genuine pricing. So you can read more details about the pricing for this transfer family on the documentation, the pricing documentation, okay, to get even more details. So to summarize today's session, what we have learnt in it, that transfer family can be used for the seamless migration for the existing workflows also, okay, for the transfer, secure transfer of the files from external sources to AWS, and then to use them for different purposes once the data is there in AWS. It is cost effective because we saw that it is just minimal, it is just having a minimal pricing, and more can be explored on the pricing documentation. It is fully managed, and that means it is having the high availability also, and is globally available, and it has the native integration with AWS services. We have seen S3 and EFS. Then it is simple to use, like how we have set up very simple steps. A few steps were there and we were able to get started with it. So that's it for today's session. I hope you have understood all the concepts and how to get started with transfer family. Now we will meet in the next video. Thank you.